Revealed, the billionaire discovered his maid training his daughter for 30 days, unexpectedly transforming their lives. In the affluent suburb of Maplewood, whispers lingered through the manicured lawns and pristine driveways, as Jane, a fiercely determined 34-year-old maid, stepped into the towering Thompson mansion. She was a single mother to her teenage son, Tyler, navigating the waves of grief after losing her husband, a devoted veteran. Their lives had shifted dramatically, but Jane's spirit remained unbroken. She was there for a summer job, but little did anyone know that fate was about to intertwine her world with that of the reclusive billionaire, Mr. Thompson, and his headstrong daughter, Emily. On the first day, Jane dusted the opulent interiors while stealing quick glances at the mansion. It was beautiful but suffocating, a gilded cage. As she reluctantly began training Emily, Jane quickly realized the girl, whose silver spoon had shielded her from the harsh realities of life, needed more than just lessons in ballet and etiquette. She needed to learn the value of hard work and resilience. "You won't find meaning riding on your father's coattails," Jane told her, voice steady despite her nerves. Emily rolled her eyes, accustomed to her bubble of privilege, dismissing Jane's words as if they were merely dust waiting to be swept away. Days turned into weeks, and tension simmered between them. Jane saw glimpses of the girl beneath the surface: confusion, frustration, and a longing for authenticity. One day, amid a sea of laundry, tears filled Jane's eyes as she opened up about her husband, the loss weighing heavily on her chest. "He fought for a chance at a better life for us. I can't let that sacrifice go in vain." Emily paused, absorbing the depth of Jane's words, her walls beginning to crumble. This wasn't just a maid, this was a warrior defining her family's legacy. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." As their bond deepened, Mr. Thompson remained oblivious to the change in Emily, focusing solely on his corporate ambitions and the impending merger that had the community buzzing with anticipation. He saw Jane merely as a cleaner, unaware of the quiet influence she fostered in his daughter. But as the whispers grew louder and the days waned, Jane's past, the tragedy she'd never escaped, began to surface. A hidden connection to his late wife would shatter any fragile peace that Jane felt she had started to build. The air in Maplewood crackled with an unspoken intensity, the townsfolk eager to witness the unfolding drama. Would Mr. Thompson confront the truths tangled in his privilege? And could Jane transcend the shadows of her past to secure a brighter future for her beloved son? The stakes were higher than ever as the summer solstice approached, leaving the community poised for judgment, wonder, and an undeniable urge to uncover the hidden truths that bound them all. In the end, would dignity and justice prevail? Or would they continue to drift along the borders of their very different worlds? Jane stood at the kitchen sink, her fingers immersed in warm sudsy water. The rhythmic clinking of dishes echoed in the spacious room while her mind wandered. She thought about her life, her dreams, and the sacrifices made in the name of survival. A twinge of hope flickered in her heart, fattened by the bond she was building with Emily. The girl had begun to show curiosity about the world beyond her gilded cage, and that glimmered like a beacon against the backdrop of Jane's grief. Across the mansion, Emily was in her room, wrestling with her own feelings. She had never really understood her father's relentless push for success, nor did she truly appreciate how his wealth had shaped her identity. Every ivory piano key she played, every dance move she practiced felt rehearsed rather than genuine. Jane's words echoed in her mind, a challenge to her carefully curated existence. Why was it that a maid whom society deemed lesser could teach her so much about life? Suddenly, the door swung open. It was her father, Mr. Thompson, striding in confidently, his suit sharp and his gaze penetrating. "Emily, we need to talk about your future," he declared, voice booming. Emily felt a knot tighten in her stomach. Always about the future, she thought, bracing herself for the lecture. "Dad, can't it wait?" she replied, her voice wavering. "Wait for what?" he asked, a hint of frustration in his tone. "You need to make connections, learn how to navigate this world. Your mother would have expected nothing less." His words hit her like a slap. They were always haunted by her mother's memory, deepening the shadow that loomed between them. Emily looked down, feeling trapped again in a life she didn't choose. "Maybe what I really need is to figure out who I am." Mr. Thompson's brow furrowed, and for a moment, confusion flickered in his eyes. But it quickly morphed into irritation. "You're going to summer camp, and that's final." With her heart racing, Emily stormed out of the room. She needed to breathe, to think, to escape the confines of her father's expectations. Gripping the railing of the grand staircase, she glanced over the balcony. Below, she could see Jane standing in the kitchen, a vibrant splash of realness amid the polished porcelain of her father's world. That evening, Emily made her way to the garden, where the moonlight bathed everything in a soft glow. She spotted Jane on the patio, sitting on a wicker chair, her figure silhouetted against the night. "Can I join you?" Emily asked tentatively. Jane looked up, surprised but welcoming. "Of course, dear." As they talked under the stars, the tension between them began to dissolve. Emily shared her frustrations, while Jane listened intently, offering insights from her life journey. "You have the power to redefine your path, Emily. Don't let anyone, especially not your father, tell you who you should be." For the first time, they connected as individuals, not just the maid and the billionaire's daughter. Emily felt free enough to laugh, to cry, to reflect on her own wants and desires. In that sacred moment, something shifted within her. But in the depths of Maplewood, Mr. Thompson was closing in on a discovery that would change everything. He began to piece together the fragments of Jane's past, a past that intertwined with his wife's legacy in ways he could never have imagined. Would this revelation tear their fragile bond apart? As the night deepened, the weight of the world felt heavy on their shoulders. What would happen when the truth surfaced, and could Emily find her voice before it was too late? In the stillness of the garden, under the watchful sky, a storm brewed on the horizon, one that could either shatter or unite their disparate lives. The following day passed in a blur for Emily, each hour echoing her father's words in her mind. Despite the beautiful garden around her and the warmth of the sun on her skin, a cloud of uncertainty hung heavy. She found herself avoiding typical family activities, claiming she had homework or just needing some air outside. In contrast, Jane had immersed herself in her routine, picking up the cleaning with the same energy she applied to their late-night conversations. Yet, every time she folded laundry or swept the patio, her thoughts often drifted to Emily's revelation. She could remember being that young girl, filled with fire and confusion. The ache of dreams unmet weighed on both hearts, though they were separated by socio-economic status and expectation. That evening, just as the sun began to set, casting long, golden shadows over the garden, Emily felt a sudden impulse to talk to Jane again. There was something about the way Jane listened, really listened, that made Emily feel understood. She hurried towards the kitchen, but as she approached, she caught sight of her father seated at the dining table, staring intensely at the newspaper. The table was cluttered with his things, a half-finished glass of whiskey, his laptop, and a photograph that made her heart drop, a picture of her mother at a summer camp, years before her passing. With a deep breath, Emily decided to push through. She needed to see Jane. "Dad," Emily said, clearing her throat. "I'm going out." Mr. Thompson looked up sharply. "Out? Where exactly?" "We're having dinner soon." "I'll be back," she replied, her mood swelling with defiance. Before he could respond, she dashed away, ignoring the weight of his gaze burning into her back. Outside, the cool evening air felt liberating. When she found Jane, sitting on the same wicker chair, she fell into the seat opposite her. "Can we talk?" Jane offered a gentle smile, sensing the urgency in Emily's voice. "Always, dear. I can't keep pretending everything is fine, Emily admitted, her voice trembling. My dad wants me to be perfect, to fit into this mold of what he thinks I should be. He doesn't understand that I don't want that life. Jane nodded slowly, her heart aching for the girl before her. What do you want, Emily? She asked softly. What's in your heart? I don't know. Emily exclaimed, her frustration bubbling over. I feel like I'm being shoved into a box, fitted with ribbons and glitter. I want to make my own choices, to escape this whatever this is. And you can, Jane said, her eyes serious. One choice at a time. Just then, the kitchen door swung open, and Mr. Thompson stepped into the garden, a thunderous presence. Emily, he called. We need to talk. Now. The air thickened with tension as both women turned to face him. A shadow passed over Jane's face as she stood protectively. Mr. Thompson, not now. Emily was just no, Jane, he interrupted, his tone sharp. This concerns you too. You've influenced her one way or another, haven't you? Emily's stomach twisted at the accusation. No, Dad. It's not Jane's fault. She's just what? He pressed, advancing a step. A maid? What does she know about success? The words hit Jane, echoing the society's unspoken rules she had lived by. Emily felt a fire ignite within her. She knows more than you ever will, Emily shot back, anger coursing through her. She actually sees me. Stunned silence fell. Jane clasped her hands, heart racing. She recognized the gravity of the moment. Emily was choosing to stand up, to confront the constraints placed upon her. As the confrontation hung in the air, it became clear revelations were on the horizon. Would Mr. Thompson awaken to the girl's burgeoning independence or retreat further into his world? The weight of truth was pressing down like an impending storm. With the stakes raised, both women stood poised at a crossroads. What would happen when the past intertwined with the present in a way neither of them could foresee? Emily's heart raced as she stared at her father. The anger that had surged within her was now tangled with fear. She had never spoken to him like this before. The silence stretched, a taut string waiting to snap. I don't want to be the person you want me to be, Emily stated, her voice steadying with each word. I want to be myself. Mr. Thompson's brow furrowed, casting shadows across his sharp features. He opened his mouth, then closed it again, as though searching for the right words, the words that would reinforce the wall he had built around their family's expectations. Jane stood quietly beside Emily, feeling waves of apprehension rushing over her. She took a step back, allowing Emily to have her space, yet ready to support her if needed. You don't know what you want, Mr. Thompson finally replied, dismissing her feelings as if they were irrelevant, easily brushed aside like crumbs from the dinner table. You'll regret this rebellion. You have everything you could ever want, and it's not worth throwing it all away. Emily felt tears pricking at the corners of her eyes. Is it everything I want? Or everything you want for me? No, it's about what I know. About what the world demands. His voice rose, and the garden felt suddenly too small for such a confrontation. The comforting sense of blooming jasmine and freshly cut grass turned acrid in the tense air. We live in different worlds, Dad, Emily said, her voice barely above a whisper. Maybe the world you live in doesn't care about authenticity or happiness, but I do. In that moment, Emily saw a flicker of something in her father's eyes: doubt. Fear. She couldn't tell, but it was enough to spark her courage. Jane watched Emily stand firm, a fragile yet fierce presence. She knew this moment would change the dynamics between them all. It was a catalyst, igniting something long buried. Take a step back, Mr. Thompson, Jane finally spoke, her voice rising with conviction. Emily deserves to explore who she is without your chains. She deserves freedom. The accusation in her voice hung like a heavy fog, but then the storm broke. Mr. Thompson turned on Jane, ready to unleash fury, but before he could speak, Emily stepped in front of her. That's enough, Dad, Emily said resolutely. You're not just going to walk all over people because you can. And you think I'm wrong? His disbelief was palpable. You think she knows better than I do? Yes. The echo of her own voice surprised her, but it also made her stronger. Yes. Jane knows how to listen. She cares about more than just money and status. She wants me to be happy. Can't you see that? A long moment passed, each second crackling with emotion. Mr. Thompson's jaw tightened as he glanced between the two women, his daughter with blazing determination and the maid who dared to stand alongside her. This is unacceptable, he muttered under his breath, the defeat evident in his now slightly weary eyes. Maybe it's time you reconsider what that word means, Jane said softly yet firmly. The air felt electric, charged with possibility. For the first time in a long time, Emily sensed a shift in her father. The moment collapsed into tense silence, where no one dared to move. After what seemed like an eternity, Mr. Thompson finally turned away and walked back into the house, leaving a storm of emotions behind. Emily exhaled sharply, feeling lighter yet weighed down by what had just occurred. Turning towards Jane, she felt a swell of gratitude, but also uncertainty. Did I go too far? Jane offered a reassuring smile, her understanding deep. No, dear. You went exactly far enough. But as the warm glow of the setting sun began to dim, a new unease began to settle over them both. Would her father retaliate? What consequences awaited Emily as she embraced this new path of honesty and choice? With hope battling with dread, they faced the night, knowing everything had changed and yet nothing was truly resolved. The journey was just beginning, and clarity felt both exhilarating and frightening. As they sat in the dimming light of the garden, Emily's thoughts swirled. What choice would she make next, and how would it shape her future? The freedom she yearned for felt close enough to taste, if only she could dare to seize it. Emily sat on the garden bench, the last rays of sun slipping away as shadows stretched across the yard. She could still feel the heat of the confrontation with her father sizzling in her chest. It felt both freeing and terrifying. What just happened? She whispered, still trying to process everything. Jane, still lingering close by, seemed lost in thought as well. I think Jane began slowly, breaking the silence. You opened a door. It may be scary, but you stepped through. Emily pondered that. A door, wide open, but she had no idea what lay beyond. She could imagine the risks, the consequences, but the possibility of a life that leaned toward authenticity both thrilled and terrified her. I don't know if I can keep doing this, Emily admitted, her voice trembling as she bit her lip. What if he retaliates? What if I lose everything? Jane moved closer, her presence comforting. Sometimes losing everything is just the first step toward finding what really matters. You can't put a price on happiness, Emily. The words echoed in Emily's mind, though they felt heavy with truth. The world her father had built around her, a fortress of expectation and material success, felt so safe and yet so suffocating. What will I even do? I can't just walk away, and her voice trailed off. You'll figure it out. You're stronger than you think, Jane said. You have dreams, don't you? Things you've wanted to pursue. The question lingered as Emily reflexively thought about her sketchbooks hidden beneath her bed and the art classes she'd always wanted to take. She could almost see them, the vibrant colors filling her once muted world. Yes, but there are always buts. Jane interrupted gently. You need to decide what matters most. Is it your father's approval or your own happiness? Emily closed her eyes for a moment, grappling with the clarity that came with Jane's words. Can I call the shots now? She wondered aloud, looking at the silhouettes of trees swaying lightly in the breeze. Is it allowed? Allowed? It's more than allowed, it's essential, Jane said. You can't live your whole life in someone else's shadow. You'll wake up one day, and all those years will just be gone. No second chances. The weight of those words felt like cold water splashing over her. Maybe she could claim her own life, define it in her terms. But would that mean fully cutting ties with her father? The thought sent a chill down her spine. Should I tell him? Emily asked hesitantly, envisioning her father's reaction. What if he tries to take everything away from me, or worse, cuts me out completely? Then that will be his choice, Jane replied softly. But remember, you're worth isn't tied to him. You hold the power now. He may react, but you can't let fear dictate your choices. A spark of determination ignited within Emily. She took a deep breath, imagining her father's stern face, the shadow of his disbelief. Maybe he will never understand, but I can't ignore who I am anymore. Just then, a sudden chill swept through the air, and Emily shivered, feeling a strange sense of foreboding. What if I run away? She asked, her heart pounding as she looked into the fading pink skies. What if I just leave and never come back? Jane's eyes softened with concern. Running won't fix anything. It's about confronting what you fear. This is not just about leaving, it's about embracing you. As their conversation dissolved into silence, Emily felt both empowered and vulnerable in the gathering twilight. A mix of tension and excitement curled in her stomach, knowing a reckoning awaited. Would her father push back hard? The night seemed to whisper possibilities, each one more daunting than the last. Above, the first stars began to shine, barely visible, but they're nonetheless, like hope flickering in a darkened sky. Tomorrow, she said quietly, everything changes. But as they sat beneath the vast night, two questions loomed larger than life. What was she willing to lose? And could she really face the tempest that her father might unleash? Emily woke up to the soft glow of dawn filtering through her bedroom window. The world outside was awakening, but her mind swirled with uncertainty. Today was the day. The confrontation was inevitable, a looming storm that both thrilled and terrified her. She took a deep breath and sat up, feeling the weight of her decision settle in her chest. Thoughts of her father's reaction played on a loop in her mind. Would he shout? Would he cry? Would he look at her with disappointment? Those questions gnawed at her, but there was a small ember of resolve that flickered in the deep corners of her heart. After a quick shower, she dressed in a simple white tank top and faded jeans, a uniform of sorts for the battle ahead. She glanced in the mirror, quickly fixing her hair into a ponytail. You can do this, she whispered to herself, the sound a mix of affirmation and desperation. In the kitchen, her father was already seated at the dining table, the newspaper spread out in front of him, coffee steaming in a pristine mug. He didn't look up as she entered. The silence was deafening. Good morning, Emily said, trying to keep her voice steady. Morning, he replied, barely bothering to make eye contact, his eyes glued to the paper. She could feel the heaviness of the moment pressing in against her chest. Today, she would not let him ignore her. She would not remain unseen, like a ghost drifting through his perfectly crafted world. Dad, she began, her voice more shaky than she intended. Can we talk? He folded the newspaper and finally looked at her, suspicion etching his features. What about? It was now or never. The words were there, but they felt like stones in her throat. About us. About my life. What about it? He shifted in his chair, folding his arms as if guarding himself against her words. I want to be an artist, Dad. I want to take classes and maybe even leave for a while. She watched for his reaction, a storm forming in his eyes. What is this nonsense? He snapped. And you think you'll pursue that ridiculous dream instead of helping the family with the business? Helping isn't the same as sacrificing. Emily shot back, feeling a rush of adrenaline. All I do is follow your path. I've never gotten to choose. All my life, I've done what you want. It's time I live for me. He stood up, his chair scraping hard against the floor, rattling the air between them. You have responsibilities. I built this family, this entire life for you. You don't understand. No, you don't understand. This life isn't mine. Emily's heart raced. You may think it's perfect, but it's suffocating. You've surrounded me with everything, but you never bothered to find out who I am. A heavy silence fell over the room as her father's face contorted, caught between anger and something softer, hurt, maybe, or fear. It was hard to tell amidst the tension. I won't lose you over this, he finally said, his voice hoarse. Maybe you never really had me to begin with. She hurled back, the words escaping before she could pull them back. Emily's face flushed. She felt both a rush of triumph and deep regret. Had she gone too far? For a moment, the two of them stood there, unblinking, the world outside forgotten. Her heart pounded in her chest, the air thick with unspoken words and unresolved feelings. The battle lines had been drawn, but in which direction would they shift now? Emily, he began, his voice softer now, but she could see the edge of irritation still lurking. Let me be me, she said, her own voice breaking with emotion, a plea as much as a demand. Just this once, please. Would he finally see her? Would he release the tight grip he had on her life, or would this just be another battle in a war that felt endless? I need time to think, he said after a moment, abruptly turning away and grabbing the newspaper once again. Emily felt a mix of relief and frustration wash over her. The door had cracked open, but she wasn't sure how wide it would swing. As she walked away, heart still racing, she caught a glimpse of her reflection in the hallway mirror, a determination reflected back, but now accompanied by a new sense of uncertainty. What would tomorrow bring? And would she be strong enough to keep the door open, no matter what came through? Emily spent the rest of the day in a haze, her mind flitting between hope and worry. Every moment felt stretched like a rubber band ready to snap. Instead of heading straight to art class as she planned, she found herself wandering aimlessly through the park, the late afternoon sun warming her skin while a cool breeze played with her hair. It felt good to be outdoors, removed from the world of expectations that had tethered her so tightly. As she sat on a weathered bench, she pulled out her sketchbook, the pages blank and waiting for her thoughts to spill onto them. She had always found solace in art, a way to express everything that swirled in her heart and mind. Dipping her pencil into the world of possibilities, she drew shapes and colors, everything flowing effortlessly until she sketched a face, her father's face, twisted in anger, disappointment, and then confusion. Why do you have to hurt him? A voice interrupted her solitude. It was Mia, her best friend, bouncing onto the scene with a bright smile, oblivious to the storm brewing inside Emily. It's complicated, Emily sighed, closing her sketchbook. Mia plopped down beside her, wide-eyed. I heard you guys fought. I just didn't know it was that intense. It was, Emily muttered, running a hand through her hair. I mean, he just doesn't understand me at all. All he sees is the family business, his expectations, nothing about me. Mia gave her a sympathetic nod. He loves you, Em. Sometimes love looks like control. Maybe he thinks I won't make it without him, Emily said, feeling frustration bubble to the surface. But I need to make my own path. I want to feel like it's mine. Aren't you scared? Mia's voice softened, a retreat from their earlier banter. Emily looked out at the park. The trees swayed, the sun dipped lower, wrapped in warm amber light. I guess. But I'd rather be scared and be myself than safe and suffocated. You're brave, Mia said. Just remember that whatever happens, I'm here for you. We'll figure this out together. As they sat in comfortable silence, Emily felt the anxious knot in her stomach start to loosen a bit. Maybe this wasn't a solitary battle after all. Suddenly, an idea struck her. What if I put on an art show? Just a tiny one, for a few friends. I could show what I've been working on, and Mia's eyes sparkled with enthusiasm. Yes. That sounds amazing. It'll be your first step. Emily's heart raced at the thought. Maybe this was the turn she needed. A chance to not just express herself, but also to show her father that she could thrive on her own terms. And I'll invite Dad. He might actually see who I am. Exactly, Mia said, her excitement infectious. This could be a big moment for you both. Leaving the park, Emily's steps felt lighter. The canvas of her future was beginning to take shape, painted with her own colors, and she wanted nothing more than to fill it unapologetically. When she returned home, she found her father sitting in the living room, his stern expression softened by the flicker of the TV. Emily took a deep breath, trying to gauge whether the moment felt like the right one. "Dad?" She started quietly. His gaze shifted to her, that flicker of familiar concern crossing his face. "Emily, I want to show you something," she interrupted, gaining confidence. "I'm planning to have a little art show. Just for friends and well, you too, if you want to come." His brow furrowed slightly, but there was no anger. Just a flicker of something else, curiosity. "An art show?" "Yes, to show what I love. What I want to do," she said, and her heart echoed her words. He opened his mouth, but no words came. For a moment, time felt suspended. Would this be the moment when everything changed? But just as she felt hope swell inside her, the uncertainty returned. What if he rejected her again? "Let me know if you want to come," she said, the vulnerability creeping back, and she turned away, leaving him with the weight of her offer. As she walked to her room, she couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted, but a nagging worry whispered in her mind. What if this was a false dawn, just a flicker of light before darkness settled in again? Emily tossed and turned in bed that night, her thoughts racing. The nervous energy thrummed through her, making sleep feel like a distant memory. She thought about her father's reaction, the hesitation in his eyes when she mentioned the art show. Was it curiosity or something else? A part of her wanted to burst out and demand to know what he was thinking. The other part, the more cautious one, feared his response would be the final blow in their already fragile relationship. Morning came too quickly. Sunlight slipped through the curtains, illuminating her room in soft golden hues, yet it felt too bright for her heart. She sat up, rubbing her eyes and taking a deep breath. Today was the day she would move forward with her plan. If her father came to the show, it was a chance for connection, for understanding. But if he didn't, okay, Emily, just breathe, she whispered to herself, summoning the courage to face whatever lay ahead. When she arrived at school, Mia was waiting for her by the entrance. The moment she spotted Emily, her face lit up. "You look stressed. Did you sleep at all?" "No," Emily admitted with a weak smile. "I couldn't stop thinking about the show and well, my dad." Mia stepped closer, her expression shifting to one of support. "Let us go to the art room during lunch. We can work on the details for your invitation." As they walked together, Emily felt the tension of uncertainty start to ease a little, replaced by excitement for what lay ahead. In the art room, surrounded by colorful paints and brushes, she found her focus. They sketched out a simple yet vibrant invitation that reflected her style, bold colors and whimsical designs that felt like her heart poured onto the page. "This is perfect," Mia exclaimed, holding up the invitation for Emily to see. Emily smiled. "I think so too. It feels like me." Later that day, with the invitation stacked in her backpack, Emily felt a thrill of anticipation mixing with dread. Would her father even consider coming? And what if he didn't? What if her art show turned into a display of her failures instead of her triumphs? The thought was suffocating. After school, she found herself standing outside their house once again, the moment to deliver the invitation to her father looming like a thundercloud. Taking a deep breath, she steeled herself and stepped inside. There he was, still seated in the living room, lost in another world of business news playing on the TV. "Dad," Emily said, her voice trembling slightly. "Can I talk to you?" His gaze shifted to her, and she felt that familiar mix of apprehension and hope. "What is it, Emily?" With trembling hands, she pulled out the invitation and held it out to him. "I'm having an art show. I really want you to come." He looked at the invitation, then back at her, his expression unreadable. An art show? Yes, Emily insisted, her courage rising. It's important to me. I want you to see what I'm doing, who I am. For the first time, Emily saw a struggle in his eyes, the weight of their unspoken words hanging thick in the air. Emily, you know I've always wanted what is best for you. But what you want and what I need, Dad, they're not the same. Her voice was stronger now. Please just come. Just this once. His gaze dropped to the invitation, his brow furrowing. It felt as if the air had stopped. Emily held her breath, waiting. And then I'll think about it. It wasn't a yes, but it wasn't a no either. The fragile hope surged again, an ember that could grow into a flame if fed properly. As she left him with the invitation in his hands, a spiral of emotions twisted within her. What might happen at the art show? Only time would tell. And with each tick of the clock, Emily found herself caught between hope and doubt. Could this art show really bridge the chasm that had grown between them, or would it shatter her dreams completely? Emily lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling as restless thoughts swirled in her mind. The invitation still felt heavy in her pocket, a tangible reminder of the weight of her father's words. I'll think about it. Clarity seemed as elusive as the sleep she craved, slipping through her fingers just when she thought she could grasp it. The next morning was muted, the sun hidden behind clouds. It mirrored her mood perfectly. She trudged through her morning routine, each movement mechanical. Breakfast was a quick affair: toast, butter, and silence. Her father was already gone by the time she shuffled to the kitchen, lost in a world defined by deadlines and demands that never seemed to include her. At school, she felt the familiar buzz of energy in the hallways, but it seemed far removed from her own experience. Mia approached her during lunch, eyes sparkling, but when she suggested they finalize their plans for the art show, Emily hesitated. Do you think he'll really come? Emily asked, the words catching in her throat. Mia's optimism didn't waver. Of course. It's his daughter's show. Once he sees your art, he'll understand you better. Just give him a chance. That belief did little to calm the storm brewing in Emily's heart. As they worked on the final touches for the actual show, she found herself glancing at the clock, counting down the minutes until the day arrived. When Wednesday finally rolled around, the air was electric with anticipation. Emily arrived early at the gallery, her heart racing as she arranged the pieces. Each artwork felt like a piece of her soul laid bare, her worries, dreams, and the delicate dance of emotions woven into every stroke. Mia was an endless ball of energy beside her, chatting excitedly and adjusting the lighting. This is going to be amazing. You're going to shine. Just you wait. Yet, even as excitement bubbled inside of her, a gnawing doubt settled in the pit of her stomach. Would her father really show? Was he even capable of stepping into her world? The doors opened to the public, and nervous laughter and chatter echoed around the gallery. Emily watched as people wandered through, their eyes capturing her work in awe. Each glance felt like a small validation, a spark in the dark. Then, just as she was starting to feel the thrill of accomplishment, her heart jolted. There he stood at the entrance, her father, framed in the doorway by the soft glow of the gallery lights. He looked around, confusion painting his features, and for a moment, she thought he might turn back. But then, he began to walk deeper into the space, glancing at each piece with a furrowed brow. Emily felt every beat of her heart resonate within her chest. Her breaths came fast as she approached him, each step heavy with anticipation. "Dad," she started, her voice barely above a whisper. He turned to face her, searching her face as if trying to read an unfamiliar language. "I didn't know you felt this way," he said, his voice deep and slightly shaky. Tears threatened to spill as she gestured around the gallery, emotions swirling like the colors in her paintings. "This is me. What I care about. I wanted you to see it." He seemed to absorb her words, yet his gaze drifted back to the artwork, as if trying to piece together a puzzle. Emily held her breath, hoping he would see beyond the canvas, hoping he would see her. And just then, he pointed to a painting, an abstract piece filled with vibrant colors and chaotic strokes that expressed her inner turmoil. What does this mean? For a moment, time stood still. Would this be the bridge they needed? Would he finally understand? Emily took a deep breath, ready to explain. But before she could speak, she caught the gleam of pride in his eyes, a flicker of connection that ignited hope within her. The air seemed to thicken as a soft murmur of admiration surrounded them. Her heart raced. Would this moment lead to healing, or would it once again lead to disappointment? Emily's pulse quickened as the words danced on the tip of her tongue. But how could she reveal the truth buried beneath the surface? She knew the answer was hanging between them, waiting to be spoken. But would she find the courage? As her father looked at her expecting an answer, that moment of truth was arriving. Emily hesitated, her heart drumming in her chest. Would she be brave enough to express everything she felt? The vulnerability hung like the paintings on the walls, delicate yet fragile. "Dad," she began, her voice trembling. "This painting, it represents how I've felt. Lost and confused. I've been pushed into a mold all my life, and I didn't know how to break free. This color," she pointed to a vibrant swirl. "It's my desire to be passionate and free, but mixed with gray because it all felt so heavy." Mr. Thompson's expression softened, the vulnerability in his daughter's eyes pulling at something deep within him. I never realized you felt this way." His voice cracked, and it was as if the weight of years spent in silence began to lift. "I need you to know that I want to pursue art, to discover who I am," Emily continued, her voice gaining strength. "I've spent so long trying to fit into a life that isn't mine. I'm not just your daughter, I'm a person with dreams and hopes that need to be heard." Around them, the murmurs of art enthusiasts faded away, the noise replaced by the low thump of her heart. Each beat resonated with her truth. "I've been so focused on the future I thought you wanted, but what about what I want?" He was silent, his gaze drifting back to the painting. She saw realization dawning in his eyes. All those years of striving for success, of creating a life built on expectation, and yet he hadn't seen the cost, the daughter he was losing in the process. "Emily, I thought I was doing what was best for you," he finally said, working through the words as if peeling back layers of his own higher expectations. "I pushed you because I wanted you to have everything I didn't, to be prepared for a world that's ruthless. I understand that, Dad. But I don't need everything, I need a chance to just be me," Emily replied, her heart full of hope that maybe he'd finally see. A shadow of doubt flickered across his features for a moment as the memories of his late wife clouded over them. But now, instead of retreating, he took a step closer. "I've been so busy, you're right." His voice was barely a whisper, and it might as well have been thunder. The space between them crackled with tension, but hope shimmered, breaking through the storm clouds that had long hung over their relationship. Emily felt the warmth of understanding drying the tears of years spent searching for connection. "Can you come to more art shows?" Emily asked, her voice barely above a plea. "I don't want you to miss out on who I am. I want to learn about you," he said, the sincerity in his eyes almost overwhelming. "I'll come to every show if you want me there. I never meant to shut you out." Emily's heart soared. "Then you can help me organize one soon. I have so much to show and share, and the stories behind all of it might just help you see." As they stood there, the world fading around them, she felt the invisible chains of expectation begin to loosen, tying her father and her together in a bond refocused not on the past but on potential. "I've missed so much," he admitted quietly. "I failed to see my daughter, the artist, and not just a reflection of who I want her to be." With every word spoken, it was as if walls cracked, letting in fresh air and light. Emily quickly wiped at her eyes, the release of emotion leaving her both exhausted and free. "I'm glad you're here," she murmured, letting the silence wrap them in newfound understanding. Across the gallery, people moved, whispers of admiration flitted about like gentle breezes, but in that moment, it was just the two of them. Perhaps the journey to healing wouldn't be easy, it would take time and effort. Yet for the first time, Emily felt a sense of belonging not just in her art but within her family. Together, they could build bridges instead of walls. As an hour passed in what felt like mere moments, Emily stirred, ready to introduce her father to her friends, to unveil the colorful world she held inside her. "Together?" she asked, extending her hand. "Together," he confirmed, the weight of their past beginning to lift, replaced by hope for the future. And just like that, the shadows that had loomed large started to recede to the corners, making way for bright colors and shared dreams. As they moved deeper into the light of the gallery, the transformation was undeniable. The love that had felt lost was now rewriting its narrative, glistening like the fresh morning dew. Lasting change had begun that day not just for Emily and her art but for their entire family. Now, as they walked hand in hand, under the weight of unspoken truths turning to light, one thing was crystal clear: love is truly an art form, one that needs to be cherished and nurtured, no matter how difficult the path of creation may be. For Emily, this was just the beginning of capturing her true essence, the essence of both her artistry and her heart. And as the crowd admired her work, Emily knew in her bones that it was finally time. Time to shine. If you're feeling inspired by this tale of transformation and courage, you need to subscribe now and join our journey. Don't just stand on the sidelines, leave a like to spread the word and help others discover these powerful stories. We want to hear from you. Comment below your thoughts, reactions, and feelings about this ending. Share your story of transformation. And remember, don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this amazing journey. They'll thank you for it. This is the moment to show your support. Let us keep building this incredible community together.